Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Subcommittee on Higher Education for the Senate Committee on Education and Health, and we're going to go ahead and get started. And welcome. Happy to have you here. We don't have any other patrons here, but Senator Hashmi has a bill that we're going to go ahead and hear. So you can go ahead. Oh, call the roll.
Senator Peterson, Senator Cosgrove, Senator Hashmi, here. Senator Locke.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay. And Senator McPike just walked through the door.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 223 is the name and image likeness bill, sending out a context and sort of the ground rules for athletes to be compensated. It sets out provisions of how they would need to address certain contracts with notification to the institution they're participating in, prohibits sort of the practice of pay for performance, as well as sort of sets the ground rules also for the universities and the institutions where they might have contracts now that conflict with a potential name, image, likeness contract. For the current contract terms, they would be prohibited from participating as an athlete until which time those contracts are reset. So there's sort of crosswalk of both rights of the institution as well as the rights of the student athlete or proposed student athlete. And so this is a little bit of a balance we've been working on also with the House patron as well to figure out the right fit for Virginia that still allows us to be competitive within this realm based on obviously the court case from a little bit about a year ago. Happy to answer any questions. We sort of took different components from what different states have set into place, as well as making sure that there's sort of a pathway to address any compensation or conflicts that may occur in the process.
I'm sorry, Senator McPike. What's different from what we did previously?
So what we had previously was through, you might remember, through the special session, through the budget language, carried forward. There's a couple of different provisions that lay out primarily through language clarifying, for instance, lines 84 through 87, as well as 91 through 93. So essentially ensuring that, the previous language I believe had stated that a student athlete, it basically didn't have the contract renewal or modification language, so it sort of could continue endlessly. We sort of said, let's make sure we have a marker that is these contracts are reset over the next couple of years. There's no new prohibitions based on the university or institution's contract that says, athlete Hashmi can't take a name, image, likeness contract in the future. So we understand that there may be some contracts exist, but we didn't want to make sure there's sort of a marker rolling forward that as that reset of those contracts, the same sort of practice does not continue, and therefore allow the student athlete to have compensation as they see fit.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, and I'll just note there's a list of different provisions from lines 55 through 64, which are sort of which compensation areas the student could not take compensation for instance, for alcoholic beverages, gaming, tobacco, weapons, firearms, casinos, gaming, and sports betting. So it sort of also lists categories of things that they could not pursue endorsements for.
Okay. Are there those here? Oh,
Madam Chair, this just raises a question for me, Senator McPike. Then, if an item is not listed in Section D, then does that exclude those items from a student athlete's being able to earn compensation?
It would be permissible if it's not listed.
If it's not listed, so any other items?
That's correct.
Okay, T-shirts and so forth.
That's right.
Thank you.
Local restaurant, auto dealer, I mean, more than likely, larger name and image likenesses are probably pretty rare. It might be a local auto dealership or a restaurant or some other small promotion, but likely not high dollar value is what many other folks are seeing.
Thank you.
Are there those here in support of Senate Bill 223? They're going to have to come. You're going to have to sit. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jared Calfee with Virginia 21. We're grateful to the patron and for the institutions for all their work on this that will benefit student athletes, and we strongly support the bill.
Thank you.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Jason Baum. I'm representing the University of Virginia, and thank you for having me today. We are delighted to be here to talk about the Virginia colleges and universities have been extremely fortunate to have strong intercollegiate athletics and academics throughout our time. A bill like this today is necessary so we could continue this type of support and this type of performance. The NCAA currently has an interim policy, but we don't know where that's going. We don't know if it's going to be a permanent policy, and we don't know what type of protections may actually come about from that policy. We need codified protections for our student athletes so we could actually compete against the other states that actually have adopted NIL legislation. And student athletes believe this is a fundamental right. We here in the state of Virginia don't want to not have a law and be silent on this issue. We believe this is something that's essential as drafted as well too. As you know, NIL has become a national issue. Congress has been silent on it, but other states have stepped in and actually addressed that issue. We've had 24 different states who've adopted legislation, and we don't want the state of Virginia to be silent on this issue and just have our rights or the NIL protections that were adopted in the budget expire. Those are about to expire in June, and as Senator McPike noted, there's just few differences between what we already currently have that are about to expire and what we would currently be adopted. And with that bill, we need protections because women, minorities, people of lower socioeconomic backgrounds are best suited at this point to actually be able to take advantage of their name, image, likeness in college. And we don't want to create extra hurdles, impediments, or any other type of thing that would stop them or prevent them from earning income from their name, image, likeness. And creating these protections would have codified protections for them. And really, this would protect the student athletes' rights and the institution's rights, as Senator McPike noted. We try to have a very balanced bill between both parties, and we would like that to continue. And we really do believe that this doesn't undermine any academic pursuits. We believe this actually enhances it. You can still be a student and a hyphen athlete, and this just makes all the students actually student athletes just like their peers to be able to have all the different rights that all their peers have as well too. And lastly, this is an opportunity for additional revenue for the state, and we believe that's a good thing. And I really just want to thank all of our team that's been involved. Our athletic director, Carla Williams, has been essential. She's been working with the other ADs in the public institutions of the Division I, and we've been working with the patrons as well throughout this process. And everybody believes in this bill, and everybody supports this bill. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Others in support? Are there any people in the Zoom room? Anybody virtually wanting to speak? Okay, oh, but not in the subcommittee. Okay, thank you. Anyone here in opposition? Okay. Was that a motion, John? Second. It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 223 be recommended for reporting. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone in opposition? Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Who did I have? Senator Serville. Senate Bill 466.
466. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So Senate Bill 466 is a bill that I put together with you, Madam Chairman. After I read in the paper that the Virginia 5, that the prepaid tuition program of the Virginia 529 program had generated over $1 billion surplus. or, well, they don't like me calling it that, but there's a bunch of extra money, and they're trying to figure out how much there is and what they can do with it. And I read in the paper that JLARC was going to study that, and to me, it seemed like a huge opportunity. If you look at the endowments for the universities in Virginia, the combined endowments of UVA, Tech, William & Mary, VCU, and VMI, our oldest public universities, total around $15 billion as of 2018. Today, they're probably well over $20 billion. The remaining 10 four-year institutions we have in Virginia, their endowments are under $800 million between 10 schools. So 5 schools have about $146,000 a student. The other 10 schools have about $6,000 a student, which to me has been unacceptable for years. And the way that plays out is that the schools with the big endowments are able to outcompete a lot of our other schools for, especially for students that have significant need. And so, in addition to that, if you look at the general fund appropriations, they're often out of balance as well. The annual appropriations to JMU, Longwood, Mary Washington, and Radford average about 22% less than UVA, Tech, William & Mary, VCU, and VMI, the same 5 schools. So in other words, we fund our oldest schools with more general funds than we fund the other schools. Not the HBCUs. They do pretty well. But the schools that historically were women's colleges don't get nearly as much appropriation. So I thought that this moment was an opportunity to take these funds, segregate them, put them in an investment fund where you could then take the earnings off those monies that we now have and use them to fund scholarships at the 10 schools that are newer, that didn't exist 120 years ago. So that's basically what this bill does. It creates a new Virginia. It creates this new program, new scholarship program, the Virginia College Equity Foundation, which would have a board with the 10 non-legacy schools on it, members in the 10 non-legacy schools, and they would give out scholarships, full rides to students who would have been denied admission to a Virginia university before 1900. And that's basically what the bill would do. I've since been talking with Virginia 529 about the bill and JLARC as well. There's significant sort of legal issues they're trying to vet through to figure out legally whether they're allowed to take the monies and segregate it from the existing plan until the prepaid contracts are paid. They're trying to figure out how much discretion they have and what investment responsibilities they might have. And it's probably going to take another 6 months or so to figure out those details before they could ascertain that we could do this without creating a legal headache for VA 529. And so, Madam Chairman, what I was going to suggest we do is, with your acquiescence, given that you're my chief co-sponsor on this, take this bill and refer it to JLARC with a letter from the chairman and also language in the budget, making clear that we want JLARC to look at this as part of their study and to see if this is a viable solution that we could maybe revisit next session. And I've worked on some language with 529. I think we're very close to agreeing on that. But that was what I was going to suggest we do. And there might be a few other schools here that say they support the idea. They might be back there. But that was what I was going to suggest. Uh-huh.
The subcommittee has to send it to the full committee.
I understand. I just want to ask a question. Okay. That's how you mentioned $15 billion in the legacy universities. How much is that is UVA?
Most of it. UVA's endowment in 2018 was about $7 billion. And I had a 2020 number in here somewhere.
That's okay. It was half of it.
Yeah, and of course, it's gone way up in the last 3 years. So,
Okay, thanks.
and that doesn't include, by the way, their strategic reserve fund.
The only thing we can do is to move it with a recommendation to the full committee,
Right,
right?
right.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anybody here to speak to it or not.
Is there anyone here wanting to speak to Senate Bill 466? They don't look like they're rushing up here, Scott.
Okay, that's fine. think they know where it's going, so.
Okay. Okay, so do we need to have a motion for that effect, or just? For the full committee, what do we need to do?
Just motion to, and then you can.
I think it'd be a motion to recommend a PBI with a letter to.
About C. I mean, you took chap C. You took chap C. Yeah.
I think it'd be a motion to PBI with a letter to J. Lark
Okay.
from the chairman.
Okay, we need a motion.
I so moved.
Okay. Second, we need a second. The motion is to PBI.
Recommend PBI.
Recommend PBI with the letter. Okay. Need a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we PBI the bill with a letter to JLAR to study. Okay. Okay, all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Committee.
Senator Edwards. You have two bills.
The first is for the Roanoke Higher Education Center, Virginia State University.
Make sure you have the,
Sorry. Madam Chair, the Virginia State University wants to be a member of the Roanoke Higher Education Center. We want them. And so all that would do is to put Virginia State University as a member institution,
this
which
is
means.
Senate Bill 395.
Senate Bill 395, and which would mean that they would have a representative on the Board of Trustees. And so,
Madam Chairman?
and also delete Mary Baldwin College, or University, I believe it is, and also Everett University, because they are no longer active.
They're no longer active.
Yeah, mhm.
There, okay.
Mary Baldwin's not active anymore?
They used to be. They're not anymore. They decided they wanted not to do it. They were very active. Yeah, they were very involved, but they don't want to do it anymore. So
So you're adding Virginia State and removing Everett and Mary Baldwin.
correct. Yes, and we used to have Hampton, but y'all quit.
I'm retired.
So that's all we were doing here, and it's been a 2-year discussion, and because of COVID, it delayed the situation. But we're very excited about Virginia State University.
Okay. Anyone here to speak to Senate Bill 395? Any opposition?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 395 be recommended for reporting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, that one's reported.
And the next one is for the Senate Bill 72. The Virginia Museum of Transportation in Roanoke is the official transportation museum of Virginia, but it's not a state agency. And we believe that if we could, it becomes a state agency, and with some funding, adequate funding, we're asking for $2 million, but we would not need that much. But with adequate funding, we're already take about 22,000 out-of-state admissions each year on average, and we could move it up significantly to let's see, 95,000 out-of-state admissions, from 22,000 out-of-state admissions to 95,000 out-of-state admissions, if we could become a state agency with some funding. And that would increase the tourism for the Roanoke Valley from 14 million to about 24 million of net tourism additional income to the Roanoke Valley and to Virginia for out of state. And so we have some people here who would like to, they're very excited about expanding it. Beth Fitzpatrick and others, if they could.
You keep saying the word expanded. Does it exist?
No,
or is this to establish
it exists. There's an Virginia Museum of Transportation was founded in 1962, and in Wasena Park. Eventually, I think after the flood of '85, it moved to where it is now, which is on the tracks, not nearby the the Amtrak station. So it's right on the tracks, and it's a great museum, and it has not only railroad history, but also aviation and automotive, and so it does a lot of things. And people with kids especially love going to the Transportation Museum. My kids just absolutely adore it, my grandkids, and they do a lot of events there as well. And so if we could get some additional funding, there's a lot more we could do. So that's what we're trying to do, and
Okay.
I'd like to invite some people.
I think we have someone here to speak. You know you have to
Yeah.
sit
Yeah,
and
yeah,
speak to
Laura
the
Bateman.
microphone.
Hi, Madam Chair. I'm Laura
The
Bateman.
microphone over.
Madam Chair, I'm Laura Bateman, and I am legislative liaison for the city of Roanoke. And I just wanted to let you all know that this item is a part of the city of Roanoke's legislative program, and Roanoke City Council fully endorses it. And I would like to introduce Mr. Will Harris, who will speak to you regarding the request.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Senators. I've been involved with the Transportation Museum for about a dozen years. I'm from Rockbridge County, and it's a museum that encompasses all of Virginia. We have things there that are not just Roanoke-based, but we have a car that was built in Lynchburg, Virginia, for example, Piedmont automobile. We have an operating steam locomotive that was built in Roanoke. We run excursions with that. It's a 611 is the engine number. We've had great success with it through the years. The last year we operated out of Roanoke, we turned about $2.7 million in revenue with that engine and train. We were started in 1963, as Senator Edwards said. We do about 50,000 visitors a year pre-COVID. About 40% of those are from out of state. We run about a $1.3 million budget right now, and we're asking the state to help us with that so we can expand further. History is one of the greatest tools to teach with, and we have a variety of historical objects there that involve transportation throughout the state. As I said, I've been involved about 12 years the way I got involved. There were 3 locomotives in a junkyard in Roanoke. And I was asked to move those locomotives by a gentleman, move one of those locomotives by a gentleman out of Newport News, Willard Moody. He was a senator. And I actually restored that engine, took it to Portsmouth. It's in a little museum there now that he started. And I haven't been there in a number of years, but that was how I got initially involved, and I've enjoyed every minute of it since. So I would encourage you to support this bill and help us expand the museum. I'm going to turn it over to Bev Fitzpatrick. He's a former director of the museum, and we have a couple other people after him that would like to speak as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Former vice mayor.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, as Mr. Harris didn't tell you, he's a former elected official as I am, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen after all you've been through in your current session today. Let me tell you a little story, if you don't mind. I went on the board of the museum when I was 15 years old. All the way through Ferrum and Tech and the Army, I was not there, but I've been there ever since, just about. The museum is one of the most unique things Roanoke has ever had, because Roanoke is known as one of the top 10 places in the United States that built and ran steam locomotives. The locomotives we have in the collection today rank us in the top 10 rail museums in the country. And 611, as Will pointed out, is one that we run. It's the most modern steam locomotive in the world. It was designated as the official steam locomotive of the Commonwealth of Virginia some time ago. And as he noted, when I was president of the museum, we were kind enough, or you are kind enough, to make us the official transportation museum. We used to receive state funds before a former attorney general said that non-state agencies could no longer receive funds. We had been receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of $750,000 a year. The story of this museum is tough. Will told you about the flood that totally destroyed the museum in 1985. We had a fire that destroyed our bus division in a 2-alarm fire in 2017. Irony is we have buses from most of the places you represent, from Dash and Metrobus and Hampton Roads Transit to others. But the big picture is this museum is far larger than what you might think. Hunter Andrews had helped us in the past. The museum he started in Hampton is very similar to what we are and represents for the state not only the emphasis on the trains, but also we have a drone that used to get dropped over the Chesapeake Bay. And folks have allowed us to have arrangements with people like the Air Force, which gives us credibility. Our goal right now is to get to the point where we can become what we have the potential to become. We're already putting money in the coffers of the Roanoke Valley and the state. But when you look at the addition of the amount of money we're talking about, it raises our attendance significantly. And knowing that this 40% of our folks who come from out of state really does change what we do. We do more than Center in the Square. We do more than the Art Museum of Western Virginia in terms of bringing income to the Roanoke Valley and to the Commonwealth of Virginia. We believe that with this help, we can go from where we plateaued before COVID to a significantly different opportunity for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And being an economic development person for Dominion Bank Shares for my majority of my career, I know what multipliers are, and we wouldn't be asking you for funding if we didn't think it would return more to you than what we have. We've been wanting to do this for about 12 years, but we've held off because of the human service needs that you all have been dealing with. So this is not for lack of wanting to be here. It's hoping to be here responsibly. I don't think there's some other folks who will talk, so I don't want to talk too long. What has been wonderful is to watch this museum start as a very small Roanoke City Parks and Recreation program that developed into a statewide museum that now has national attention and people coming from 40 countries a year and over 40 states a year. I like your tie. Does that mean you're a Hokie? Senator, that's a very good tie.
You know what? I forget. I think I got it in an estate sale.
Don't tell me that. That's the wrong thing to tell a Hokie. But thank you so much for your willingness to look at this. And obviously, our recommendation from our standpoint would hopefully be that you report it to the Education and Health Committee. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Are there others here to speak? Did you have a question, Joe?
I do, yes. Senator, question for you. I'm looking at the language in your bill on lines 67 and 68. It shows here that this organization is going to have the power of eminent domain. It shows the museum is going to have the power of eminent domain, and I got a real problem with that.
Well, I don't know why it's in there. I'm not sure we.
66 and 67?
Yep.
It may have been a routine we put in there, but we wouldn't necessarily need that. That's an issue.
I'd move that we strike that, starting from the sentence in the exercise.
On line 66.
We don't have the intention of gobbling up somebody's house if that's the concern.
I'd move to strike that sentence in the exercise of the power of eminent domain granted under this section.
I second.
Okay, all in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye.
Thank you, Senators, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Jenna Lawrence. I am a lifelong resident of the Roanoke Valley, but more so than that, I was very fortunate to grow up on a farm and as a fourth generation in the transportation industry. And I come from a unique position that I grew up riding on tractors and in trucks and being able to see that. But a lot of kids don't get that opportunity today. And there are roughly 65 public school systems within a 2-hour drive of the Virginia Museum of Transportation. By becoming a state agency, the museum would be able to leverage a lot of the resources through the Department of Education and through other state resources to create programming and to reach out into these local school systems to provide educational experiences and other educational programs so that we can go out into the diverse crowd that is all of Virginia, really, but primarily southwestern Virginia, and really provide an educational opportunity. By becoming a state agency, the museum will be able to leverage funds to both add new exhibits to broaden what people are interested in, and also to bring in both school age and non-school age. I think one of the gentlemen mentioned earlier they're projecting that we could probably triple the out-of-state visitors. So not only does that benefit the Roanoke region, but it's going to benefit the entire I-81 corridor with people coming in to visit, and the potential to expand transportation education throughout the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in support of Senate Bill 72? Briefly, please.
Madam Chair and fellow senators, thank you for having me. My name is Chris Banta. I'm currently the treasurer for the museum. I will keep it brief, but just wanted to emphasize the fact that this is a state museum. I grew up in New Jersey, grew up going to D.C. and seeing the Air and Space Museum. I moved to Roanoke after I graduated from Tech, and first thing I saw was that big missile, the rocket right there off of 581. Had to know what that was. I'm a CPA, I'm an auditor. I'm involved in many nonprofits, but I immediately want to get involved with that organization. I was in Roanoke for 20 years and had the opportunity to move to the Richmond area. Now live in Chesterfield during the pandemic in June of 2020. And the first thing I said to our board chair at the time was, I'm leaving Roanoke, but please tell me that I don't have to leave the board because this is a state museum. And he said, we don't want to lose your expertise. And we agreed, this is a state museum. Through my work as a nonprofit auditor, I've seen and done some work with the VMFA. I also work with state and local governments. I understand how the dynamic between a nonprofit foundation for a museum that's also a state agency, understand component units of the state, work with some other, like the Virginia Tech Foundation, things like that, that are component units of the state. Understand that. I understand the benefits of this museum. Also love the museum very much and just want to see it succeed, both for the Roanoke area and for the state itself. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone here in opposition to Senate Bill 72? Anything else, Senator Edwards?
One final word. Roanoke is known to be a railroad town because before 1882, it's called the town of Big Lick. That was the name. In 1882, it became the town of Roanoke when the railroad came. And in 1884, it became the third city in Virginia. It grew magically. It's called the Magic City because of that, because of the railroad. And Richmond, Norfolk, and Roanoke City was the third city in all of Virginia. Anyway, it's known as a railroad town, and everybody knows it's a railroad town. Now, the railroad's not doesn't have its headquarters anymore. Went to Norfolk and now going to Atlanta, I guess. But it's still, the history is there. And I had some friends of mine down in Birmingham that said, don't y'all have a Museum of Transportation? I said, yes, we do. Come visit. So we think this would enhance tourism and enhance Virginia by promoting this museum as an official transportation museum, but also an agency of the Commonwealth.
Okay, any additional questions from committee members? Okay, what's your pleasure?
Move to recommend reporting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 72. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition?
One abstention.
One abstention. So 3 ayes and 1 abstention.
I think I'm on the subcommittee.
I'm sorry?
I think I'm on the subcommittee.
No, you're not.
I'm not? Okay. I
You-
thought it was. Okay.
You're not on here.
I vote aye.
Thank you, Senator.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be speaking to Senate Bill 159, and there is a substitute.
Move the substitute, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the substitute. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Madam Chair, the substitute is coming from the recommendation of the institutes of higher education that we've been working with, although they are not fully aligned with the entirety of the bill. One item that they had requested is that we, on line 52, the condition of the provision of a transcript or diploma. We deleted the word diploma and at their request substituted degree. So diploma is not a part of this bill. SB 159 is an attempt to assist our students, primarily those students who are facing issues of direct college debt that they owe to the institution, not debt that they owe on student loans or federal loans, but debt that they owe to the institutions themselves. And it doesn't change the parameters of debt collection by the institution. As we know, our state agencies, our institutions of higher education are mandated to aggressively pursue a debt. And so the colleges are still able to pursue the debt that a student may owe to that institution. But what this bill is seeking to do is to take away the issue of holding a transcript hostage, basically. Many times institutions of higher learning will not release a transcript to students that owe debts, current or former students, and thereby really impeding the efforts of our students to be able to either transfer to another institution or to actually get a job. It creates such a barrier for students in particular who are seeking employment when they are not able to document and produce the evidence that they have gained credentials and that they are ready to at least begin employment. So it creates a vicious circle. If you can't work, you can't repay your debt. And this is an effort that we think would be beneficial to the institutions, allowing our students to either seek employment or to transfer or also to return to the same institution, continue to finish the degrees or the credentials that they are seeking, and therefore be in a better posture to be able to repay the debt that they owe. And this is a issue and a concern that I've seen directly as a professor within our community college system. Sometimes the debt can be as small as $500, $100. Students sometimes are too scared to even inquire from their institutions how much money they owe. And a lot of times they end up abandoning their pursuit of higher learning as a result. This debt disproportionately affects students from our low-income communities, students that are working part-time, full-time jobs in order to pursue their college. This is a way of assisting a wide population of our students so that they can be in a position to be successful, both academically as well as in pursuit of employment, and then also eventually repay the debt that they owe to the institution. And Madam Chair, I know we have several folks who are here to speak to the bill today.
Those who wishing to speak, if you could come and
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Jared Calfee with Virginia 21. The issue of direct-to-school debt is a large and growing issue, with some estimates showing $15 billion of this type of debt nationwide. The root of the problem here in Virginia is in large part around funding and affordability. As you all know, Virginia has underfunded our institutions compared to our neighboring states, and often that burden gets passed along to students. And what this piece of legislation is trying to do is directly address one practice of debt collection. As we know, as the Senator said, our institutions are required by code to pursue debts, and this particular method of withholding the transcript, we believe is an ineffective tool for collecting on those debts, and ends up doing more harm than good. As the senator said, it directly impacts primarily low-income students, and it can prevent them from pursuing further educational or employment opportunities that might put them in a better position to ultimately pay back those debts. Generally speaking, students who are able to pay back a debt will do so, and students who are not able to pay back a debt won't, regardless of whether the transcript is withheld. So all this is doing is harming prospects for those who are least able to pay back those debts. And so we're grateful to the institutions for engaging with us on this issue, and very grateful to the Center for all of her work on it, and we strongly support the bill. I was also asked by the Student Borrower Protection Center to note that they strongly support this bill, but they weren't able to have anyone here in person today. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Jay Spear with the Virginia Poverty Law Center, and we also support the bill. I don't have much to add to what the previous speaker said, but obviously it affects low-income students, and obviously if these students could pay, they would. And I hope you'll keep in mind that the terrible impact this has on students. And I've talked to some students about this, and we actually brought one of those students here today, and she's willing to tell you her story.
Hello, my name's Salona Perkins, and I am one of the students who were affected by this. I went to VCU and started out for health sciences as my degree. Unfortunately, though, I was dropped because my loan was $5,000 and I just couldn't pay it off. I didn't have anyone willing to co-sign either for a loan to take it out and pay for it. I ended up having to drop out, and I was in a career bind, so I joined the military and am currently in the military in the reserves. Currently also I go to J-Sarge. I did end up going back to school, though for a different major, inspired by you all actually, for law and paralegal studies. However, though, without getting my transcripts, I have to take all those classes again. By being in VCU, I was in my second year, so I did all those gen eds and was going into my major. Without those transcripts, I have to take all those classes again, and, potentially it's holding back career and job-wise, and just getting into more debt and loans I have to pay off. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could also just add to what our speaker just said, when a student has to take those credits over again, that it is further building the debt. It's increasing the cost of college to these students in particular. But it also impacts their long-term federal financial aid, because having a student take those credits again is seen as a detriment to the continuation of federal financial aid, and it can have serious consequences to a student's ability to retain that financial aid or to get additional aid in the future. And so we really want to ensure that if a student has completed certain college credits, that they have those credits in hand, and that they are able then to not be trapped in repeating credits unnecessarily and further falling into greater debt.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Vicki Kitts with the Virginia Education Association. We support this bill because it does remove barriers for potential employees that could be going into the teacher education, and to help with the shortages that we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here in support? Any opposition?
Madam Chairman, I have a question.
Okay. Senator Cosgrove.
Thanks for Senator Hashmi. Senator, you mentioned that transcript, but not a diploma. Okay. Now, everywhere the transcript is referenced on here, it says transcript or degree. What's the difference?
That was at the request of our institutions. We had originally in the bill it said transcript or diploma, and the institutions said that they would like to withhold that final certificate that one tends to hang on the wall, and that is something that they felt they wanted to keep as a part of the process for pursuing the debt, but they agreed that releasing the transcript, the record of a student's completion of credits, that was acceptable to them. And if a student has gone so far as to complete the full program of education, that the transcript would then reflect the degree achieved if they've completed all of the credits. So they are retaining the right to keep that final diploma that is generally passed out on the stage at graduation exercises.
Additional questions? Okay, we have Senate Bill 159 substitute before us.
I apologize for being late. I was over at the Capitol. Josh Humphreys with the Attorney General's office. May I make just a few? We're not taking a position on the bill. Excuse me, Madam Chair. Josh Humphreys with the Attorney General's office. We're not going to take at this time a position on the bill, but I just wanted to make a couple of comments from our office that it will make it harder to collect delinquent fee accounts apart from litigation, as it takes away a major initiative for the student to pay. And by taking away a common legal collection tool in student debt cases, the bill could result in more debt collection litigation. And then from our office, we just did comment that if the purpose of the bill is to ensure that the colleges and universities do not withhold student transcripts as a debt collection technique, it does not do so because it conflicts with other pieces of law, for example, the Tier 3 management agreement. So we're happy to take a look with the patron, but we just wanted to make those comments at this time. Thank you.
But you're not taking a position?
That's correct.
Okay.
Chair.
Senator Peterson.
I will move to report and speak to the motion. This only applies to public entities. I will say I went to a private college, and before they let me get my diploma, I had to pay all my parking tickets over 4 years. And I still remember going to my dad to get that check. That was a tough experience. So bottom line is, fortunately, I had a father that could do that. So some folks don't. And so the bottom line is people should be accountable for their debts, but I do agree it's probably not appropriate to withhold a diploma, so I will support this legislation.
Madam Chairman, if I might,
Senator Cosgrove.
I'm going to oppose it for exactly the same reasons. I just think this takes a tremendous amount of leverage that the university has to collect legitimate debt. I don't know what else is going to drive a student who has debt to the university to pay off that debt if they already have their transcript, they already, got what they needed to get a job, and it's just there, unless, the university is going to take them to small claims court, which I don't see happening.
Madam Chair, the colleges and universities, though they are reluctant to do it, do have the option of pursuing debt collection, and some institutions do, after a certain number of years, turn over debt to debt collection agencies and pursue the debt. It is part of their responsibility, as has been pointed out in Virginia Code, to pursue it aggressively, and so that does happen. There are many issues that we've seen come to light as a result of research, and that is that students are often, they change addresses, they relocate, and it's often a challenge to find the students. And many times their credit rating ends up suffering because they themselves don't know that they owe this debt, or the institution has not been able to locate them. So it again creates another avenue of challenge and difficulty for many students. Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion to re-refer to report Senate Bill 159 to the full committee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. So, okay. We have one bill left, and that is SJR 53, which belongs to me. Okay, Senate Joint Resolution 53 comes at the request of Chev. It is the endorsing pathways to opportunity to Virginia Plan for Higher Education. And the proposed joint resolution endorses the revised statewide strategic plan. And this statewide strategic plan was developed by the State Council of Higher Education for Virginia as the Commonwealth's vision and plan for higher ed. The Chev Council approved this plan in 2021. And this endorsement specifies the plan's framework, which serves as guidance for the planning resource allocation decisions of the General Assembly regarding higher education, the strategic plans and 6-year plans of the public institutions of higher education, and the agency plan of Chev as the coordinating body for higher education. The resolution requires the Chev report annually on progress toward achieving the goals and targets of the statewide strategic plan to the governor, legislature, institutions of higher education, and the public. The first annual report was submitted in December of 2021, and it outlines the core components of the strategic plan and the goals that serve as a framework for the plan, and the mission and vision of Virginia being the best state for education and its overall targets for achieving that. And I believe Peter Blake is here if he wishes to speak to this resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Peter Blake. I'm the director of Chev, and this is something that the General Assembly has done in the past. You did it in 2015. And we seek your endorsement of this plan again. We would then, of course, use it, as the chair said, for some resource allocation decisions that we make and recommendations that we make to you, as well as other policy and financial matters for the next 6 years. So thank you, Madam Chair. Be happy to take any questions.
Any questions regarding the plan or the resolution?
I move to recommend reporting.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend to the full committee SJR 53. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
And I think that clears our docket. Okay, thank you.
All right.